the Why You're Wrong Fantasy Football Podcast. This is Catching Up with the Wide Receivers, Episode 10. So we had our new intro today. We have our hosts, myself, the Monotone Master, and Brian Tambo, the Fantasy Force here. And we're joined today by a guest manager, Chris Capola.
What's up, everybody?
So you can also find us on social media now, on TikTok and Instagram, if you like those apps. We're at Why You're Wrong FFB, separated by underscores, and on Twitter as You're Wrong FFB. But today's episode, we're going to be examining the guys who are the 10 projected wide receivers to start the 2020 season, looking at who actually finished in the top 10, looking at performances, injuries, breakouts. We're going to be looking at the early top 10 predictions for 2021, and where other big-name receivers might go in the draft. But to start off with the big topic for this weekend, the Super Bowl 55. Who do you guys got? The Bucks.
Go Bucks. Go Brady.
Don't even start. It's the Bucks all day.
100% on the Chiefs bandwagon this week.
I think the Chiefs probably will win, but we're going to hope.
Did you guys see that the over-under for Brady's rush yards is half a yard?
He probably will hit it too. He'll probably run for a nice 10-yard run, and he's going to cash out for a lot of bettors out there.
What do you think?
I'm going to refrain from any sports betting questions.
All right, but so the big fantasy news so far in the season is Matthew Stafford has been traded to the Rams and Goff to the Lions. How do you see the fantasy impact on each side playing out?
I think the Rams players are going to be locked in and ready to go next year.
Yeah, I mean, the Rams are winning that division. Sorry, Seahawks fans out there, but I think Stafford probably comes in, throws for 5,000 yards, and Rams easily win the division, maybe the NFC. And in terms of fantasy, too, Kupp and Woods are also going to be pretty good wide receiver targets as well.
So do you think they do significantly better than they did with Goff? Because looking back on the past 4 years when each one was healthy, Goff's and Stafford's numbers are almost identical.
I mean, Stafford's definitely a more legitimate passer than Jared Goff. It just depends on how much they give in production to Cam Akers, but I don't see a reduction in there how many catches or targets they even get a game, but I think they'll still be solid players regardless.
Do you see the Rams offense focusing on tight ends more now that they have Stafford, or do you still think they're going to keep the two wide receiver set and using the running back?
I mean, they still use Gerald Everett and Tyler Higbee, even with Goff, but now with Stafford, maybe they'll throw the tight end more, but I don't see it.
I think that Stafford is the guy that they thought they drafted when they got Goff. So I think that in terms of regular season, I think not much is going to change. They probably still go 11-5, 12-4, somewhere in that range. But I think now in the playoffs, they can be dangerous.
So another big headline news, he's in or is he out? Is Deshaun out of Houston?
100%.
Yeah, he's gone.
So at this point, is Houston a fantasy graveyard? You just avoid any fantasy player on Houston?
Generally, any team or players that are on David Johnson's team, I tend to avoid.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely avoid them, but then again, it's like, is it going to be a thing like the Falcons? They suck so bad that all the garbage time comes into play and people don't play defense when they're down 30, and next thing you know, Brandon Cooks has 102 touchdowns at the very end of the game because they suck so bad. I don't know. Could happen, but I would just avoid all Texans players at all costs.
Yeah, I think it kind of really depends on what quarterback they end up with, but as I was telling you guys earlier this week, their new head coach has some interesting stats. Remember when the Chiefs went an entire season without a wide receiver scoring a touchdown? That's the Houston Texans' new head coach. Remember how the Ravens had the worst passing offense in the NFL last year?
Also, same coach.
Also, same coach. So,
well, I mean, that's Lamar Jackson, not a great passer.
Yeah.
And then I'm pretty sure the best receiver in the Chiefs back then was like Chris Conley. So
Not a great resume overall, so.
And it was Alex Smith. So.
And it was Alex Smith.
Some other small notes. The 49ers have re-signed Jeff Wilson, which kind of makes their backfield still kind of troubling to dissect. I don't see Mostert going as high in drafts. I think he's definitely not even as... Would you take Mostert in the 6th round again?
Stay away from all San Fran backs. They all get hurt, and none of them are good enough to have a full-time role.
I'm not having another JaMychal Hasty moment, so no, I will not be drafting any 49ers running backs.
Another note, the Seahawks have signed Shane Waldron. He was the offensive coordinator for the Rams for a while. After departing from Schottenheimer, I think this hopefully brings a more balanced approach to the Seahawks offense because they're deep pass heavy and then they took away the deep pass and went run heavy towards the end of the year. So it's kind of, you started off the year excited for Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, but the back half of the year were very disappointed in any Seahawks offensive piece.
Isn't that how every year goes?
It is. So, like, it's what I...
It's only going down, too.
It's what I know as a Seahawks fan, and I know you guys like to give me a hard time for it, but it's why I'm so hesitant to
the
draft
unfortunate
Seahawks
truth
players.
about the Seattle Seahawks is until they find a way to get out from under Russell Wilson's contract, they'll never be able to put together a full team to beat some of these younger teams that have a rookie quarterback deal and they still have a loaded
And
offense.
speaking of that, when I was just looking up the cap space before we even got on here, the Seahawks are not doing great in cap. They pay Russell Wilson $20 million a year, so they got no money to pay
way more
anyone.
than $20 million a year.
No, well, per year, I think it's $19.8 million.
It's a lot, but sometimes you got to pay for talent.
I guess.
Because we all know how the Pats season went with
Yes.
Cam Newton didn't win.
Well,
Did you know that Cam Newton had half as many receiving touchdowns as N'Keal Harry?
I mean, when you play with the Patriots receivers, I feel bad for anybody that tries to play on that offense. I don't love Cam Newton, but I also don't think he got a fair shake. And to say he's washed or that was all his fault, I don't think that's fair.
I agree.
All right, another small note. The Eagles have hired Nick Sirianni as their head coach. Here's the Colts OC. Do you see them coming ahead with any more of a run game like they had in Indy, or this is just a meaningless signing?
Only thing I see is his interview where he was stuttering in his first head coaching interview, and it was probably the most embarrassing thing ever. So if that correlates to anything about his coaching and how the Eagles are going to be for 2021, I just don't think they're going to be a good football team.
I don't think that's a relatable thing at all. I think unless they figure out what they're doing at quarterback, that team's just it's going to be a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
All right, now to transition to the main piece of this episode. The top 10 receivers going into 2020 in a half PPR setting. Number 1 was Michael Thomas. His average draft position was 4, but finished 98 among receivers, mainly because of injury for the entire season. Devontae Adams, his average draft position was 8, finished 1. Tyreek Hill, average position 10, finished 2. DeAndre Hopkins, average draft position 13, finished 5. Then we had 2 guys that kind of broke your hearts. Chris Godwin at 20, finished 32 because of injury. Kenny Golladay at 25, finished 103 because of injury. Mike Evans, 26, finished 10th, but it didn't feel like that throughout the season. Allen Robinson, 27th, finished 12th amongst receivers. Odell Beckham, 28th, finished 85th, injured in week 7. Adam Thielen at a 29, finished 8th amongst receivers, and had a very up and down season, it felt like. So, out of those guys, do you have any opinions on any of them?
I think the list starts with Devontae Adams, and then after that,
I think
drop
it's
off.
it's definitely Adams and Hill are the 2 top dogs.
I would take Kelsey, I think, even before Tyreek.
Yeah, that's actually debatable too. I think Kelsey's definitely going to be up there considering he just shattered every tight end record possible. But it's
Not even tight end record. He was the number.
It was for receiving too, for receiving yards.
Number 2, just receiver in the
Yeah.
NFL.
Yeah, so I think that's debatable too. And then clearly you have your guys like Diggs and Ridley and Hopkins coming in after that, Metcalf. But I think all of them will be pretty solid.
You're really buying in on Ridley, even though Julio's coming back.
We're going to get to those guys in a second. I just want to talk about the big 2020 disappointment so far. So, Michael Thomas, injured, played 7 games. Drew Brees is gone. Do you see Michael Thomas still being a top pick, or is he taking a toll next season?
Depends who the quarterback is.
Jameis Winston, maybe he's pretty good. Taysom Hill, no.
God. If Taysom Hill's the quarterback, what round should Michael Thomas be drafted in?
Probably the late second round. Third round, maybe.
Probably 3rd round, somewhere around there. Yeah. Late second.
I would say people are probably going to draft him mid-second round because of the name value, but if Taysom Hill's the quarterback, I probably want to touch him till late 3rd round.
Yeah, probably.
Probably getting to buy low with Michael Thomas. People taking a lot of shade this year. He is actually a beast.
I mean, Slant Boy will catch a lot of passes, and if you're playing in a half-point PPR league, he's going to get those points.
Yeah. What about Chris Godwin? He was injured, played 12 games with some broken fingers. So I feel like there's just a very crowded wide receiver room this year in Tampa. He's a free agent going to 2021. Do you see him staying in Tampa with Tom, or does he go somewhere else?
I think it depends on what happens on Sunday.
I think so, too. I think if they win the Super Bowl, then maybe he comes back.
I hear they're going to keep AB, so I wouldn't doubt if they win, Godwin goes, cashes out, goes back to being wide receiver 1, and then AB takes on a full-time role as the X.
I can see that, too.
So let's say that Chris Godwin stays in Tampa. Where should he go in a draft?
I wouldn't touch any of those guys.
Yeah,
Then.
those guys you don't want to touch just because there's too many people. It's like Mike Evans goes for 31 game, gets 5 the next game. Chris Godwin also gets 31 game, and the next thing you know,
I don't think he had a game like that once.
I don't think he did either, but he does get those games where it's like 8 catches, 100 yards, and like 2 touchdowns. But then after that, it's like drop up, and then comes.
I don't
back
think he
at
did that once this season.
I don't even know.
I think he caught a handful of
yeah,
touchdowns, but I don't think he ever had a 20-point week.
Maybe
Yeah.
not.
It's not his fault. It's
Yeah.
just
It's just too many guys there.
you got a lot of dogs not in that team.
Kenny Galladay was another guy who had a lot of promise going into the season. Only played in 5 games because unfortunately he got injured the day before game 1. His OC said he wanted to make Kenny Galladay a top 5 wide receiver.
Now traded for Jared Goff.
Right. Now Matthew Stafford is gone. He's a free agent. Where do you think Kenny Galladay lands and where should he go in drafts?
Is he signed?
Not yet.
No, yeah, he's a free agent. I mean, it depends where he goes. I don't think he's going to stay with the Lions.
I don't think he is either. I think they're going to get rid of everybody.
Like Marvin's a free agent, Kenny Galladay's a free agent, and they're probably just going to wash all those guys. Jared Goff is poor man's in Detroit by himself.
He's taking a beat. I don't think Jared Goff's as bad as people say he is. I really
No,
don't.
he's not that bad. I mean, this man was first overall pick. So
If they win the Super Bowl that year, it's not even conversation.
they don't even trade.
No. It's just one single individual pass that could have been a touchdown.
Well, I mean, just think about it. He unfortunately ran the Patriots in the Super Bowl, who just lost the year before. You're going to beat the Patriots, lose 2 Super Bowls back to back? I don't think so.
Probably not.
Right. Okay, another name on the list that he keeps falling every single year in fantasy, but Odell Beckham Jr. He got injured this year. He had 5 bad games without 1 monster game versus Dallas where he got over 30 points. His offense actually plays better without him on the field. Do you think he stays in Cleveland and do you think he should be relevant in fantasy drafts anymore?
I think he's got one last shot to make himself this next part of his career to get a couple more elite seasons in. And I think he has to leave if he wants to do that.
I mean, I don't know what he's going to do. He's definitely boys with Jarvis Landry, but I don't think that's going to help his case with staying in Cleveland. And even if Cleveland,
Well, he hasn't
wants
had a
him.
good season in about 4 years, and now he's pushing late 20s. He's got
Too many injuries.
probably 3
coming
more
up.
shots left.
Yeah. It just depends on where he ends up. And if he stays in Cleveland, it's like, will Baker Mayfield actually be decent again, or is the run game just going to carry
Yeah,
on
I
to the
think
playoffs?
Cleveland, that's their bread and butter. It's going to be Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb. That's how they win football
just
games.
give him 200 carries.
I just feel like Odell Beckham needs to land with somewhere with a quarterback that's talented enough to feed him the ball 100 times a game. So I think if you could somehow pair Odell Beckham with Deshaun Watson wherever they land together, that'd be one of the few kind of interesting matches where I consider taking Odell again in fantasy drafts, but where he is now, I'm basically avoiding him completely.
I would take him if he's on any other team, especially where he's the number 1.
Yeah. I mean, I would take him just for the buy low. I mean, he's definitely going to go later in drafts this year for sure, just because people don't believe in him. He's too injury prone, whatever it may be. But if you can get him at a low price, I would take him.
Right. And the last 2 guys on this list, they're not really disappointments, but they had a handful of disappointing games. Mike Evans and Adam Thielen, 2 guys that felt like they caught 3 touchdowns a game or they did not catch a single pass. Either of these 2 guys, how do you feel about them going forward?
Well, Adam Thielen crushed me every time I played him in fantasy.
Thielen's good. Thielen is good. Kirk
Mike
Cousins,
Evans was just a touchdown or bust.
pretty much. He is 30 or 5 points. Adam Thielen is
Although I
actually
had him in
consistently
a
good.
non-PPR league, and he was like the best receiver in football.
That's true. Because he only catches touchdowns.
I think Mike Evans had a few games where he had 2 yards, 2 catches, 2 touchdowns.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure he did that last year too. He had 3 catches and 3 touchdowns on 3 yards. And this is not the first time Mike Evans has done
Well,
that.
he's 6'6".
Just lob it up, a little fade in the corner, and it's too
It's that
easy.
easy.
So a few other notable disappointments kind of finished in the 11 to 20 range. Juju Smith-Schuster, drafted as the wide receiver 11, finished as the wide receiver 18. His job kind of got taken by Chase Claypool, and the offense completely just shifted halfway through the season. Mari Cooper, wide receiver 13 off the board, finished as wide receiver 16, mainly just because Dak Prescott went down and didn't have a quarterback that could give him the ball. DJ Moore, wide receiver 14, finished as wide receiver 22. I think that was just due to other guys on the offense had larger roles than people were expecting going into the season, aka Robbie Anderson. Cooper Kupp, wide receiver 16, finished as wide receiver 27. I feel like he got injured and had a very inconsistent season this year because of the inconsistency of Jared Goff and his home and away splits. Cortland Sutton wide receiver 18, finished as a wide receiver 180, mainly because he had a season-ending injury in week 2. Any of those guys you feel confident in next season, or are you just avoiding all of them?
I like all of them except for Juju.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally Deontay Johnson in that offense or no one I would take in Steelers. And then Cooper Kupp, I think, is going to be a monster. He's just a catch machine, but then again, it's like you don't really know how the Rams are going to play it with Stafford. But then again, Stafford slings the ball to 5-10 yards to Marvin Jones every time. Like, I think you can do the same thing with Cooper Kupp, and he's kind of that guy.
So, the top end guys of 2020, the ones who actually did win you your games. Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill finished 1 and 2.
Had them both.
DeAndre Hopkins finished 5th. Now the breakout names on this list, Stephon Diggs finished 3rd, but he was drafted 62 overall. Calvin Ridley finished 4th, drafted 42nd overall. DK Metcalf finished 7th, drafted 23rd overall. But then the biggest one is Justin Jefferson finished 6th, drafted 132nd overall. And then at the bottom of the list, we got Adam Thielen, finished 8th. Tyler Lockett finished 9th, drafted 47th overall, and Mike Evans finished 10th. So I feel like the big names we got to talk about first is Stephon Diggs. New team, first year as the one in his offense with a quarterback who's a gunslinger. Was this his ceiling year, or do you think he repeats this consistently now?
I called it.
He's definitely not repeating 127 catches.
No way.
This is probably the high water point, but I do expect him to be a Pro Bowl caliber wide receiver going forward.
I was made fun of for taking Josh Allen in 2 leagues, and I heard it from Aiden, heard it from you. I know a lot of people.
I was jealous you got Josh Allen.
Everyone was saying Josh Allen's going to be bad. I said Stephon Diggs going to be a number 1 receiver in Buffalo is going to change his life, and what did he do? He balled out this year. Josh Allen's a monster, can sling the ball downfield, and can run too. I mean, he's going to be good next year. I just don't think he's going to do what he did this year because it's hard to repeat what he did.
Well, look what happened to Michael Thomas after his 125 plus catch season.
Yeah, I don't see him repeating, but he'll be top 15 for sure.
I think he should be drafted between after wide receiver 7. I feel like you're putting a lot of effort into a pick if you take Stephon Diggs as a top 5 wide receiver.
And with all the targets he gets in a game, who says he doesn't get hurt too?
Right.
Well, you're betting on that volume if you take him again.
So another breakout guy, Calvin Ridley, finished as wide receiver 4. Finally emerged from Julio's shadow. Also due to Atlanta blowing leads, so every single game is super pass heavy. He actually had the most 100-yard games by wide receivers last year. Is he the new number 1 receiver in Atlanta, or is he just the new number 1 for fantasy?
I don't think either of those. I think Julio was just hurt.
I think that Julio plays Calvin Ridley's better because he just takes so much coverage off of Calvin Ridley, and he's so fast and shifty that he's going to continue to do that. But if Julio doesn't or gets hurt, whatever happens to Julio because he's getting old, Calvin being a number 1 receiver will not be what he's doing this year, and I just don't see it. But I would take Calvin again if Julio comes back at full strength.
Well, that's the thing. This year, Julio played with an injury pretty much all season, so when he did go, he wasn't 100%, and that means Calvin gets the weaker safety. It was just a perfect storm of a year for Calvin Ridley. Right. I still think Julio's top dog, and I don't quite fully believe in Ridley beating number 1 corners at every single play.
That's a fair point. It's just hard because even with Julio Jones being out for multiple games, Calvin Ridley only had 3 bust games the entire year. So he still performed well. He was the only...
Yeah, but then look at those games and then say, look at his stats through 3 quarters. What were they? And then what happened in those 4th quarters because the Falcons are down 20 points and he gets a 60-yard catch and with a minute and 30 seconds left in the game. Yeah. Great for fantasy. Yeah. But
I don't know.
Bullshit stats.
We'll see about Julio. I'm just not. I wouldn't draft Julio. That wouldn't be me. If someone wants to take him and take a gamble on his toe for hurting for the last 8 years, then sure, take it.
Well, he's a no doubt Hall of Fame receiver. The man's healthy. Yeah, he's gonna be a beast.
Healthy, Julio, monster. Had him when that Panthers game. When he had 300 yards and 2 touchdowns or whatever. Had him on my team that year, but ever since he hasn't been the same.
All right, another guy who just took the world by storm. Justin Jefferson. He basically took Stephon Diggs' role in the Viking offense and just elevated it. Even in a run-heavy team, he finished as a wide receiver 6. So my big question is, are you going to go the appeal of Justin Jefferson, or are you going to take the value on Adam Thielen in drafts?
I think that's the exact same thing. Justin Jefferson is the same thing as Calvin Ridley. He just took Stephon Diggs' role, takes the number 2 corner. He's very good. But put the number 1 guy on him, and I think you can say goodbye to 1,400 yards.
100%. I totally agree with that. I think he literally is the same exact thing as Calvin.
It's also nice when running back is a monster.
Yeah.
So you're facing single coverage every play.
There's
'cause they got to
eight in
stack
the box.
box.
Yeah, they got to stack
I
the
mean-
box and he just goes deep. I mean, that's the same thing with Diggs. It's like when Dalvin was there, Diggs was a monster because he was the number 2 receiver. It's like Adam Thielen's out of the equation. Justin Jefferson's number 1. Does he put up
I
those
think he's
numbers?
good though. Give him a couple of years. Once he's the main dude, he's gonna be fine.
Who says Chase isn't going to be better than him, though? Maybe.
Potentially. So, last breakout of 2020, DK Metcalf finished as the wide receiver 7. He emerged early in the season as this big play threat when the Seahawks were just bombing the ball deep downfield. But then they fizzled out at the end of the season because he actually came out and said that teams figured them out. They took away the deep game and just went run heavy when their team wasn't designed to run. I think with however season he did this year, he's going to get overdrafted. And with the way the Seahawks play offensively, it's just where people are going to be taking him is way too high for what he's going to give you for the season.
I don't know. I still think he's a beast. I just think he's just too big, and there is no one that can cover him. So, like, he draws Stephon Gilmore, one of those shutdown cornerbacks. It doesn't really count because they can't cover the guy. It's not their fault.
I mean, definitely taking DK over Tyler Lockett any day of the week. And, I mean, DK could
This is also his third year, which is usually the big step year for wide receivers.
He's going to come out probably strong. He might catch like 14 touchdowns next year. Maybe. I mean,
Well, if the
depends on how the
Seahawks
Seahawks
are smart, they should pass the ball
Yes.
or invest in a running back.
Because they only try in the fourth quarter.
It's true. It's something
Well,
they're very good
they
at.
love their undrafted or late round pick running back, and they feed him
Rashad
30
Penny.
times a game. Why?
First overall.
Why are you doing that?
Oh, that pick hurt. But other notable breakouts, Robert Woods came off the board at 20, wide receiver 22, finished as the wide receiver 13. Brandon Cooks, everyone thought was left for dead, wide receiver 37 and drafted, finished as wide receiver 15. Marvin Jones Jr. came off the board at wide receiver 36, finished at wide receiver 17, but I'm going to chalk that up to Kenny Golladay being hurt for the majority of the year. Chase Claypool, drafted as the wide receiver 84, finished as the wide receiver 19. CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver 40, finished as the wide receiver 20 on the season. Big emergence as the wide receiver number 2. Any of these guys that you're looking forward to next year, or just 1 year guys?
I don't really like any of them. I have a comment about Brandon Cooks. I think he is the world's oldest 26-year-old. I swear to God, he's been in the league for 10 years.
He gets concussed every play. I mean, he literally gets hurt every
I was just
single year.
shocked. I saw his age was 26, and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
He's been on 12 different teams. That's why.
It's almost like he lasts a year and a half on each team, and then halfway through the season, he moves on.
He's not even bad. He's a good player. It's
He's
just
fast.
He's really fast. He's just, I mean, now that Sean Watson's gone, he's kind of just stuck in Houston now for next 3-4 years maybe until he gets traded to the next team.
I think if he's lucky, Houston will continue the trend to move him on to another team.
No, they're probably going to build a team around him. Be like, Brandon Cooks, you're our guy. Is he like, oh, I got a concussion, coach. I can't play next year.
Okay, projecting the top guys going into 2021. This is a very early projection. So currently Yahoo has Devontae Adams as 1, Tyreek as 2, DK at 3, Calvin Ridley at 4, DeAndre Hopkins at 5, AJ Brown up there at 6, Stephon Diggs at 7, Allen Robinson at 8, Julio Jones at 9, and Kenny Golladay at 10. So I don't see Julio Jones being a top 10 wide receiver next year. I think he's going to be up there in drafts because of name value. I don't see the skilled fantasy players taking him, but someone in the league will take him. I need to see where Allen Robinson and Kenny Golladay land in free agency before I can consider drafting them in the top 10. And as I was saying earlier, Metcalf is going to be way too high. Being drafted 3 overall is just absurdly high for where he's going to go. I think if someone takes him that high, they're going to be super disappointed as their first or second pick being DK Metcalf.
Agreed. Like Kenny Golladay and Allen Robinson, you got to look at like some of the teams that have high cap space for next year, like Colts and Jags and Jets are 3 teams that have over $70 million to spend for next season. And the Patriots also have $58 million to spend. So I could honestly see Allen Robinson or Kenny Golladay going to Jacksonville just because, they got James Robinson now. Trevor Lawrence is coming in.
No way Allen Robinson goes back to Jacksonville. Nobody goes back to Jacksonville.
Golladay could. I also have seen that Allen Robinson might go to the Jets too, which would just be crazy. But he goes from one awful team to another awful team. But we'll see where it happens.
Or how do you think those guys should be where they are? Do you think 6 for AJ Brown is too high at all?
AJ Brown's a beast.
AJ Brown's good.
But I don't know if he gets the receptions to justify that.
There's some games where AJ Brown has like 3 catches for like 80 yards and a touchdown. There's also games where he completely duds. But then again, if Derrick Henry can stay healthy, they can run the ball effectively, and Tannehill can play action and throw it deep to AJ, like he's going to be a good receiver any day of the week.
That's a fair point. So I'm going to throw a bunch of names at you guys, and I want you to tell me where you think they should go in drafts. First one is Keenan Allen.
Yeah. That's my reaction.
I think he's going to be a second round, like a late second round guy because of how well he did with Herbert this past season.
I mean, I think the Chargers offense is going to be really, 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 really good next year. So I just don't like Keenan Allen for some reason. It's just the touchdowns. He just doesn't catch any touchdowns. He gets the catches, gets the yards, just no touchdowns.
I feel like he just gets injured for various points in the season that, like, when you need him the most, he's not there.
Exactly. But then again, if the Chargers come out and they just say, screw everyone, they got a new OC, so they can come out, they can be guns blazing, they could maybe be a wild card team, but doubt it. I don't know. I think Keenan Allen still catches 1,000 yards. It's just if he can get those touchdowns or not.
Right. Justin Jefferson. I see him going, he should go in the 4th round, but I see him going earlier.
I'm not touching him in the first 3 rounds.
Yeah, I wouldn't touch him probably to like the 3rd or 4th round. If he falls to the 4th round, you got blessed.
Yeah, if he fell to me, fine. But I'm not going to go out of my way to draft Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
I don't think he puts up more than 1,400 yards. That's how often do wide receivers put up back-to-back 1,400-yard seasons?
Not often if they're not proven.
Even if they are proven, that doesn't. You go look at all these Hall of Fame receivers. It's not easy to do 2 seasons in a row like that.
Yeah.
Because defenses take notice of who you are and they adjust their game plan accordingly. Michael Thomas, 2nd round?
Yeah.
Yeah, late 2nd round.
Mike Evans, 2nd round or 3rd round?
I'm not drafting him.
No, I'm not drafting Mike Evans either.
Where would Mike Evans have to fall for you to pick him?
I would have to be
Last pick, 3rd
There's
round.
no one else to
Like fourth round, if that even is a possibility.
Okay. What about his teammate, Chris Godwin? I have him basically
As
a
long as he's
round
on the
later
Bucks, I don't
because of
want
the
him
same thing.
Yeah, same
The-
thing.
I mean,
Just too many guys.
They're not fantasy players. They're not good fantasy guys to have.
Yeah.
There's
You
too
need-
many.
You need a dog. Like, you need someone who's going to get 8 to 10 targets a game.
No, all 3 of those guys are dogs, AB included, but they
there's
just need to be on
there's
separate
just
teams.
Too many guys for fantasy. That just can't trust it.
Adam Thielen.
I like
He's getting old.
So 3rd round, like back end 3rd round for Thielen, or do you think he goes higher or lower?
I'll let somebody else overdraft Thielen.
Yeah, I wouldn't overdraft Thielen either. Like, but probably back end middle 4 maybe. I don't know, somewhere around there.
What about DJ Moore? I think he's going to probably go in the 4th round again.
I'm
after
good. The only player I want with the
Unless Deshaun
Panthers is
Watson-
Christian McCaffrey.
Deshaun Watson goes to the Panthers. I'll take DJ Moore wherever
Oh,
he falls
sure.
to me. But if not, then no.
What about Scary Terry over in the Washington football team? I think he's
I
probably
like
going to
Terry. I do.
boost up to potentially a 3rd round this year.
I think he's good.
Again, I wouldn't be the one that drafts him, but like if he falls to me, sure.
If I can somehow get him as like a 3 receiver, like a very, very good 3 receiver, I would take him there.
I don't think he falls that far.
And I think he's going to be a high wide receiver 2. Maybe if someone goes heavy running backs, he'd be wide receiver 1.
Yeah. But then again, who's their quarterback going to be this year?
That's to be determined. But he's proven to
Can't be
do
worse
well with
than Dwayne
anyone.
Haskins, so.
It's true.
What about Robert Woods?
Woods is a beast.
Yeah. 4th round for Woods or lower or higher?
Around there, probably. He'll probably be like a wide receiver too on teams. He's good. He gets a lot of targets, and Sean McVay loves him.
Odell Beckham, another 4th round guy? Or do you think he falls to the 5th?
Definitely falls.
Definitely falls, yeah.
Coming off a blown ACL, I don't think anybody's overdrafted
Probably
him.
be like ranked like 14, 15 wide receiver, something like that.
About Amari Cooper? Is he a
He's a beast.
Beast.
3rd round or 2nd round? Or does he...
I don't know. Where did I get? I drafted him last year. I don't think he.
He was right at the turn of like late 2nd, early 3rd round guys.
I think him and CD also are both going to be pretty good with Dak coming back
Well, I mean, Cooper still ended up going over 1,000 and had a respectable season
with Andy Dalton.
with Andy Dalton, and he was an absolute wide receiver 1, unquestionably, with Dak Prescott.
About Will Fuller. Do you think it just kind of depends on what team he goes to, what round he goes in? Because
I don't know.
he was one of those late guys that you took in the draft because, like, you know how fast he is. Had an amazing season until he got suspended. Do you think he gets launched up to the 5th or 4th round this year, or do you think he's going to be sitting in the back half because people are still going to be scared of the injury?
I don't know. There's always stupid people, so they'll probably overdraft him.
definitely. And he didn't get injured last year because steroids. Can't do steroids this year, so what's going to happen? Probably going to get hurt.
What about Deontay Johnson?
Beast.
I think right now I can see him going in the 5th round. Do you think he goes higher than that?
No, probably around there.
Tyler Lockett went late 4th, early 5th this year. I still see him
Probably
being in the
same.
5th because of name value, or do you think he drops?
Probably same.
Same.
I don't know.
Tyler
Depends what
Lockett's.
the rookies look like after the draft.
I don't think there's ever been a difference in Tyler Lockett season after season. It's always just monster game, terrible, 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 monster game, terrible, terrible, terrible.
What about your favorite wide receiver, Brian? DJ Chark.
Oh my god. Don't even.
I see him. He's going to be a 7th round guy this year.
I mean, I would take him for the upside with Trevor Lawrence for sure. That's if they don't get anyone in free agents or they trade for another receiver. If he's a wide receiver 1 with Trevor Lawrence, then yes, has a lot of upside. I just wouldn't take him early.
Cortland Sutton. Do you think he still goes as high as he did with the new rookie in there? I'm blanking. Jerry Jeudy, or do you think he falls a little bit? I'm kind of sitting in the 5th round.
Well, he probably
no-
falls because he, again, tore his ACL, so you don't know how those guys
Well,
are.
Noah
until they
Fant
come
was
back.
pretty good last year, right?
For like the first 2 games in the last game, he was.
So is Cortland Sutton going to be pretty good because Denver's a good passing offense, right? Drew Lock's
Well, Cortland Sutton went over
I don't
1,000
believe. I hate the Broncos offense so
yards
much.
already in his career.
Melvin Gordon sucks. Like the whole offense. No, it's not me.
You know, Melvin Gordon
Melvin Gordon does
finished
not
as,
suck.
He
He
doesn't
finished
suck.
as like the running back 13.
He actually led me to a championship. Did lose a championship, but Melvin Gordon is a monster. Just I hate the Broncos. Just everything about that offense is awful.
What
Well,
about
they forced themselves to give touches to Philip Lindsay, which
Yeah, which should never happen.
what about CD Lamb? I kind of see him going in the 4th round. He's going to be that high upside with Dak coming back. Do you think he should be a 4th round guy, or do you think he should be later in the draft?
Not
that's way too
fourth
high.
round.
I'm a Cooper guy.
Yeah,
If you take CeeDee Lamb ahead of Mark
Yeah.
Cooper,
no way. He's like top 5 in dynasty leagues. So they're saying like he's like got a ton of upside. And I see it. He's a monster. It's just like we haven't seen what CD Lamb is fully capable of, and he did play pretty well with Dak in those first 4 weeks, and then he just fell off after that because Dalton like those tight ends and Amari Cooper.
I don't know. He seems like a possession guy right now.
He's a slot receiver, so we'll see if he can
I
actually get
think
the
everyone's
targets.
going to remember that outrageous touchdown he got in the corner, I think, versus the Vikings.
Yeah.
Okay, what about this guy that came in and stole a lot of production away from DJ Moore? You think Robbie Anderson goes near him in drafts, or do you think Robbie Anderson's still going to be a later round guy?
The Alt's going to draft him.
They're like the
He's
same
going to try to
price.
trade him for Hopkins. So I don't believe in Robbie Anderson. Again,
No,
Sean
he's
Watson.
good. I think all of those Carolina receivers are like the same level of player.
Also, the Carolina head coach had connection with Robbie Anderson because he coached him in college, so I think that's part of the reason why that Robbie Anderson saw so much more opportunity than everyone was expecting. What about down in Cincinnati, T. Higgins with Joe Burrow?
He's not fantasy relevant. If you're starting T. Higgins,
I see
you're probably not a playoff team.
Yeah. That sums it up.
What do you see him going in drafts? I kind of see people going to love his upside with his potential pairing with Joe Burrow. I could see him in the 6th.
Why?
or 5th
He's not
round.
even a wide receiver 1 type of guy. He's a possession receiver. Great football player to have on a real football team.
I don't know.
What's his value in fantasy? I don't see anything more than 4 catches for 60 yards and a touchdown week in, week out.
So would you rather Tyler Boyd or T. Higgins?
Tyler Boyd. All day.
Again, if I'm drafting Cincinnati Bengals wide receivers, all has gone wrong in my fantasy season.
Yeah.
Okay, what about Debo Samuel?
I
No.
love Debo. He's a beast.
It's a
I
walking
got knocked out in
injury.
the playoffs because he blew out his hammy on the first play of the game.
We should have played
So
each
that's
other.
a
in the
sour
champ-
toast.
If Debo
Taste
Samuel
of my
doesn't
mouth.
get hurt, we play each other in the championship. That's
I mean,
what
that's
happens.
just brutal.
So
But he's a monster. I have nothing bad to say about him as a player.
so 6th round for fantasy or later than
Probably
that?
fall. I think I got him like 8th last year. It's the same deal. He got hurt.
It's like I think Ayuk and him are both like the same thing, honestly.
I think when
has more
Debo
upside.
plays, he's their main offensive.
Weapon.
Yeah, because he can
By
run.
far.
He can run the ball too, which is
Because he's one of the only receivers that actually gets to start with the ball in the backfield too.
exactly.
And he gets 8 to 10 yards every single time he does
Yeah.
that play.
Okay, what about Marquise Hollywood Brown?
No.
Do you think he's gonna fall later in drafts, or do you think he's gonna sit there right in the middle rounds?
Nah, he's fallen. He should never be.
Yeah,
in the
what was his
starting
stat
lineup.
line? Did he get 1,000?
He caught the end of the year going 7 for 7. Caught 7 touchdowns in the last 7 weeks of the year. Like I told you, because
Yeah.
he had good matchups. So good matchups.
No, did he get 1,000 yards?
Oh, no way he had 1,000 yards.
I
way.
didn't think so.
Okay, what about Juju Smith-Schuster?
Awful.
So
He should be a TikToker.
you think he's gonna?
Yeah, he really cares more about TikTok than
Cares
football.
way more about
Remember when
TikTok.
people said he was better than Antonio Brown? Look how that one played out.
So I gotta see Juju falling to the 5th round at this point.
If someone takes Juju in the 5th round,
Yeah.
I want to be in that league.
Yeah. There's no way.
So he can't even be a wide receiver 2 at this point in your eyes.
He's not even a wide receiver 2 in his own team.
Yeah. That's true.
Fair point.
It's Deontay Johnson, Claypool, and then him.
Yeah. What about his old running mate Antonio Brown?
Beast.
Yep. Where's he going drafts?
He'll probably go low, but if you
He'll
watch,
definitely go
if
low.
you actually watch the games, I don't think you can say he's lost a step whatsoever.
Okay.
And turned it on at the end of the year.
Let's say the Bucks still have Evans, Godwin, and Brown. Where do you want to take either of those 3 guys?
Again, if the Bucks have all 3, I don't want any of them.
We're talking. We're in late round. You're taking a shot in the dark at anyone.
I mean, he's
I
gonna be
get
a good
that.
wide receiver.
Again,
for him.
I'm not. I am staying away. You're just limiting. You're basically you're praying for an injury because they have 3 great guys there, and they're not going for 1,000 yards, all 3 of them. So maybe one of those guys is at the end of the year fantasy relevant, but the other guys having spot games in between. So you're gonna pay the premium to get one of those guys because of their name, when in reality,
And then you always
It's just
get
not enough touches.
that garbage Scotty Miller in some games too.
Yeah.
Cameron Braid.
Cameron
Gronk.
Brate, yeah.
All right. Do you guys see there being any late round wide receivers they pay attention to? On my list, I've got Mike Williams, Henry Ruggs, Michael Pittman, Jalen Reagor, Cole Beasley, and then rookies Jamar Chase and Devonta Smith. Now, I don't watch a lot of college football. I know you do, Brian. Do you think Jamar Chase and Devonta Smith could have potential fantasy impact depending on what team they go to?
Depending if they go to a heavy pass offense, like any top receiver out there, like pretty much Ruggs goes to the Raiders. He sucks. You put Chase on, I don't even know what team could be good for him.
I think you're undervaluing the level of prospects that these guys are. Chase
is a
and Smith
monster.
are like 2 of the best receivers
yeah.
to come out in a couple
No,
last couple
I'm thinking
years.
they're going to be
I
amazing.
think both Chase and
I just think it's
Smith
what
are
team they
better
end
than
up
any
on.
of the receivers drafted last season.
Yeah, I think they're amazing too. I just think it depends what team they get put on.
Like
So-
Jamar Chase was the number 1 over Justin Jefferson, hands
Yeah.
down.
I believe Chase is going to be one of the best receivers we see in a long time.
Yeah.
So would you take your 10th round pick on Jamar Chase?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
I don't think he lasts to the 10th round, depending on where he's drafted, though.
Would you go as high as 8th?
I mean, you can't
you
can't really
can't tell.
speculate
You
until
gotta
we
know
know
what
team he's on.
Right. All right, so we do have a viewer question from Ryan King the Ginge from Instagram. What are your thoughts on Nelson Aguilar going into next year?
My thoughts are, if you are in the position where Nelson Aguilar is an option to start, you're probably not in a good place.
Yeah,
I'll take Renfro over.
he's
Aguilar.
a solid wide receiver 6 for sure, but
He's a better football player than he is fantasy football.
that is true. He is catching them this year.
Yeah, no,
he
yes.
is catching. He was catching them.
He had a very solid. He's basically the boomer bust guy you could
But
throw in
you
your
should
team.
not be highlighting him in any
Only
draft
Raider
film
player worth
whatsoever.
owning. Well, there's 2, I guess. You
Josh
have
Jacobs and Waller. That's it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about Waller in the tight end segment.
Oh, Darren.
So, some final remarks: like, subscribe, and share. It's the only way to grow this podcast. It's never too early to start working towards next year. Just pay attention to the news every few weeks to see what happens. And you guys have any closing remarks you want to end the wide receiver episode with?
I hope I get Devonta Adams next season.
I hope I get Adams or Hill.
Okay. Here's a question: when do you draft Devontae Adams in drafts?
4th.
Yeah, 4th, 5th, somewhere around there. Top 5. He's going top 5.
Yeah. Would you rather Saquon Barkley or Devontae Adams?
I don't know. That'd be one of those, like, I have 30 seconds to
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like I just
Draft
close my eyes and pick one of them.
Pick one.
Yeah.
All right. That's a decision we'll have in a few months. But otherwise, cheers, boys.
Cheers.